The most crucial gameplay aspect of Doom Eternal is, of course, the guns. But what if we took them away? Today, I will attempt to answer the question, can you beat Doom Eternal without firing a single bullet? So let's set some rules for this run. I am not allowed to fire my weapons, meaning performing any action that consumes ammo. I am not allowed to use major glitches to skip large portions of the game. However, I am allowed to use equipment items and certain very specific weapon mods that don't consume ammunition to deal damage to enemies. I am aware that this challenge has been attempted by Wayne a few years ago, but I intentionally did not watch his video before attempting this run myself, so as not to get any ideas. But nevertheless, I'd be excited to watch it after this video comes out just to see the similarities between our runs. If you do find yourself enjoying this video, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can always throw a like, a comment, or a sub. I would really appreciate it. Depending on how well this video is received, I may do a follow-up video where I beat the Ancient Gods DLC without firing a single bullet, but we shall see about that. So, with the quick intro out of the way, let's get to it. So, I rebound my fire weapon button to a button I would never have access to, started the run on the easiest difficulty because reasons, spawned in and faced the first roadblock of this challenge. One of the most asinine changes from Doom 2016 to Eternal was the massive nerf done to melee damage. I can understand that the devs wanted to incentivize players to use weapons and weapon combos as well as equipment and blood punch, but having standard melee deal minuscule amounts of damage was just unnecessary in my opinion. I even made a meme about this a while back. I mean, look at this. It took me 1 whole hour to deal with these 3 basic zombies. Literally the weakest enemies in the game. Making mistakes would hurt a lot, but with enough patience I was able to deal with this slight inconvenience, picked up the chainsaw, which would be one of the primary ways of dealing with the demons for most of this level, progressed further through the Hell Barge, and got to the first arena, where I would essentially have to chainsaw anything and everything that stood in my way. After being done, I picked up a spare chainsaw fuel as I would need it later down the line, made the first Hell Priest pee himself, and went into the next arena, in which I would use my chainsaw on this Arachnotron, after which I would once again have to run around the arena waiting for my chainsaw to refuel. But yet another roadblock would await me, this Arachnotron. I didn't have enough fuel to deal with it, so what I decided to try out was get the explosive barrels towards it and explode them in its face, but once I was out of barrels, there was pretty much no way for me to deal with this guy, making me have to think of another way to deal with it, and while I was walking around the arena, this guy just decided to despawn, which is cool, I guess. I then went into the underground to pick up the second source of damage, which is the grenade launcher. With its help and the automatically refueling chainsaw, I was able to progress further through all of the remaining arenas with little to no difficulty. This level typically takes me like, I don't know, 7 to 9 minutes to go through, but because of the multiple roadblocks, that time went up from 7 minutes to 45 minutes, which was not exactly fun. But anyway, I finished the level, went to the Fortress of Doom to grab a couple of upgrades, like the Flame Belch and the Health and Perk upgrade. Starting out, I would focus on the armor and health pickups, recharging the Blood Punch, as it did seem like the most logical thing to focus on at the start of the run. Speaking of Blood Punch, I went ahead and traveled to the second level, Exotia, where I would pick up both the Blood Punch and my first rune. Okay, so most if not all of the arenas in these early levels look pretty much like this, so I'm not gonna bore you with the excruciating details. After going through the arenas, I picked up yet another very important tool, the dash. The great thing about it is that it actually deals damage to demons. It only takes 2 dashes and a flame belch to put a standard zombie into glory kill state, which would allow me to recharge the blood punch with pretty much no problems. Moving a little bit further to the last arena, I now had all of the basic tools to deal with the hordes of enemies, besides the ice bomb. This arena also had a quad damage pickup, which funnily enough also increases the damage dealt by dashing. Once all of the baddies would spawn in, I would use a combination of grenades and blood punches to delete these guys from the game. Once I was back in the fortress, I picked up the aforementioned ice bomb, which would come in handy for the next level, Cultist Base. As I was making progress, acquiring more and more tools, dealing with enemies was becoming easier and easier. This level had a whole bunch of runes and suit and stat upgrades for me to pick up, and the only slight inconvenience I had to face in this level was the platforming. I had to figure out how to activate these buttons on the walls to open up the gates, but the solution came pretty quickly, thankfully. I then had to possess a Revenant, which is the only part in the game where I pretty much was forced to use weapons to deal with the oncoming hordes, but look, this is the Revenant that's shooting the missiles, not the Slayer, so I think that checks out. Anyways, I got the super shotgun, went through all of the arenas, and finished the level, which was quickly followed up by the next level on the list, the Doom Hunter base. This level was more of the same, blood punch, grenades, chainsaw, glory kill. I got the last rune, got a few more upgrades, and faced off against the titular boss, the Doom Hunter. One great thing in my favor was that the blood punch deals crazy amounts of damage to this guy, which you better be sure that I would abuse that. Thankfully, there's a decent amount of respawning enemies, which would allow me to refill the blood punch gauge and blood punch this guy into oblivion. With him down, I had to deal with 2 more of these guys. Good thing is though, they both have less health than the initial Doom Hunter, and the strat for them would be pretty much a carbon copy of the strat that I used on their slightly beefier big brother. With them both down, I beheaded the second Hell Priest, which upgraded my blood punch. Back at base, I got a few suit and health upgrades, and progressed further to the Super Gore Nest. This has got to be in the top 3 of my favorite levels in the game, if not in the entire series. This level just screams Doom, and I love it. Its design and layout is also reminiscent of the OG Doom games. To finish it, I had to collect 3 demonic keys of different colors to access and destroy the heart of the Super Gore Nest. The gameplay was now becoming a lot spicier with a lot more heavy demons spawning in. It would be pretty commonplace now to see like 3 to 4 Arachnotrons or Mancubi spawning in, which wasn't that big of a problem since the strat of grouping demons together, throwing a frag in the middle of a mosh pit, and blood punching them would be a good way to dispose of the dastardly devils. The Super Gore Nest as a level also has a complete game changer of a tool in it, the chain gun. But I don't need the gun itself, I need one of its upgrades, which is the energy shield. If you didn't already know, the shield not only gives the Slayer a 360-degree protection from all damage for a short duration, it also boosts the damage dealt by the dash. And that, ladies and gentlemen, would become pretty much my primary source of damage for the remainder of the game. With the heart of the nest destroyed, I finished the level with a smile on my face and progressed to the homeland of the best track in all of gaming. Now, the primary goal of this level is to recover the body of Samuel Hayden, the robotic scientist who was helping us in Doom 2016, but before we could do that, we had to fight this guy, who is considered by many to be one of the toughest enemies in... never mind. With Arc Complex done and dealt with, I got a few more upgrades and witnessed one of the most iconic scenes in the game.
You can't just shoot a hole into the surface of Mars.
The portal is ready.
Suffice it to say, shoot a hole into the surface of Mars was exactly what we did. Also, look at how fancy this BFG looks. It's as if it came out of a Barbie movie. Too bad we couldn't use it. One of the reasons why I hold the Mars core level in high regard is this. Moving on to the last arena of the level, which didn't provide much of a challenge. However, there were a bunch of Barons of Hell appearing now, signaling to me that things will be getting real fairly soon. Going through the portal, I got teleported to Sentinel Prime, where I had to defeat the Gladiator, the last of the classic Hell Knight species from the original Doom games. He is, or well, was, rather, the guardian of the third and last Hell Priest. This guy is more or less a bullet sponge, so just checking frags and hitting him with an occasional blood punch was a solid way to defeat this guy.
Dude, stop! Let me go! Dude! Let me go!
Moving on from that, we are now in the great city of Taras Nabad. A few key moments that happened in this level: I bullied another marauder, got a mastery token which I immediately used to get the flaming hook upgrade for the super shotgun. I figured out how to activate these buttons, and most importantly, I got the Slayer's Crucible Blade, which I will be using on major headaches, like the Archviles and Tyrants. We are in the endgame now, and with all of the tools and upgrades available, I wanted to spice the gameplay up a bit. Yep, from here on out, all of the gameplay you'll see will be on Nightmare difficulty, which made the gameplay a lot more enjoyable for me and will hopefully make it a lot more entertaining for you to watch as well. One of the major roadblocks this time around was the environmental boss, Calibas. The only thing that deals damage to those eyeballs are frags, so I had to wait around for quite some time to be able to progress further.
The shield now, while it's exposed. No.
With all of the demons slain, I finished the level and went into Necroval Part 2, where I would have to face a double whammy of an Archvile and a Marauder in one arena. But that's not a big deal, since the Crucible can deal with the Archie and my fist could deal with the Marauder. Also, I witnessed a rather peculiar behavioral pattern by the Marauder here.
Fast as fuck, boy.
Yeah, this guy definitely has brain worms. We gotta put him out of his misery. Oh boy, it's been a while since the last time I had to fight a pair of eyeballs. How exciting!
You're not that guy, pal, trust me.
You cannot stop the procession.
We then proceed to stop the procession. Alright, time for Urdak, one of the most visually stunning levels in the game.
Sing with me, sing for the ear, sing for the left and sing for Mattia.
With the icon of Sin on the loose, we needed to realign the free teleporter rings and get back to Earth. But the only thing standing in our way was the Big Mama herself, the Khan Maker. I'ma be brutally honest with you, I was not looking forward to this fight. Like, at all. This whole boss fight with her took like 47 minutes of my life away, which I'm never getting back, and the main contributing factor to me almost breaking down crying was the fact that she has regenerating health. So if I didn't deal damage to her consistently enough, she would just regain all of her health back, which is annoying, but manageable. What I also managed to figure out was that, upon death, the Maker drones that the Khan summons drop enough health to fully restore my health and fully recharge my Blood Punch gauge. With that knowledge in the back of my mind, all I had to do to defeat her was kill a drone right next to her, Blood Punch her, regain the gauge from the drone, throw a few frags at her face, rinse and repeat that 4 times. And this strat seems simple enough on paper, but the Khan Maker has just a slight tendency to move out of the way of your attacks, and the health pickups dropped by the Maker drones don't really last all that long, making the fight super RNG heavy, which is the primary reason why the fight took me 47 minutes. Coincidentally, 47 is also the number of my chromosomes. But that's besides the point. For the last 2 phases, I was able to use the Crucible to stagger her. If I had 3 charges on the Crucible instead, I would have been able to end this fight a lot sooner, but since I'm a dum-dum, I didn't think of that before entering the arena, but like, whatever. She went down and we were able to travel back to Earth. Time for the final boss, the Icon of Sin. As you might know, there are 2 phases to this boss, and during phase 1, the primary goal is removing the armor from the icon, exposing its actual body. That sounds easy, right? Well, you would be partially correct. There is this weird force field around the icon's body that prevents direct contact for dealing damage with melee attacks or Crucible. But when the icon moves to perform an attack, you can actually damage the armor. Now, I'm no game developer and I really have no idea about the logistics behind this, but my 2 primary theories are, whenever the icon moves, the Slayer can just clip through the force field, or the icon just moves its limbs out of the bounds of the force field. It's one or the other. Now, as for phase 2, you are most likely under an impression that beating the icon without firing would be impossible. But take a look at this. Yep, this is the primary strat that I will be using to destroy most of its body parts, besides its forearms. which were surprisingly easy to destroy with the Crucible. Thankfully, there's a ton of Blood Punch and Crucible pickups in this arena, which would make my life slightly easier. The Icon's body still has a force field though, which pushes you away if you are too close, so I had to be very precise with my Blood Punches. Now, you would probably ask this: Mr. Koala Man, but how does this Larry gain so much speed after using the meat hook and opening up the weapon wheel? I have no idea. All I know is that it works, and it works well. But like, not super well. It still took me a whole ass hour to beat the Icon. I remember vividly that at one point I went for 10 minutes without dealing damage to this thing, and here's the entire fight sped up by 50 times by the way. Once all of the body parts were removed, it was time to deal with his ugly mug. I know you might wonder, how would I go about doing that? And here's how. Sure, the shield doesn't deal that much damage, but hey, damage is damage in my book. And besides, the Icon's health bar doesn't show the actual amount of health that it has, as once I deal enough damage with the shield and the bits of flesh on its face fall off, the entire health bar will disappear. Which is exactly what happened. And this, ladies and gents, was how I was able to beat Doom Eternal without firing a single bullet.